Yo, it's your man with the plan, Marx and Lars here to go over my thoughts about the first closed beta for Silver Palace, a new gacha game that's coming out hopefully in 2026, maybe 2027. I think there's a 2026 date on there, but honestly, I think it might be until 2027. But first, I'd like to thank you, Silver Studio, or would it be, I don't know, Elementa, Happy Elements? I think they're all the same thing, but I want to thank you first for giving me a code for the beta. I appreciate you guys. And honestly, don't shoot me for anything I'm going to say during this video, honestly, please. I have a few thoughts about this beta, and like I said, most of the time at betas, they don't have, some of them, they're about, honestly, the first beta is like 60% of the game. I've seen previous betas where the game improves drastically or downgrades and upgrades certain things, so there's a lot of changes that still can happen to this game. And honestly, my take on it might be a little unique, maybe a hot take for some, but mostly a kind of unique take. And I kind of just want to get into it. So, also, just keep in mind, for those who are gacha addicts, I do have a loot bar sponsorship, so my link is down below. I just want to let you guys know that. I'm trying to be better with that, but also not intrusive. So, I kind of want to give you my first thoughts in the overall game, and I'll just give you my baseline first thoughts. This game fundamentally feels interesting, because this is the first time I played through a beta, and I'm like, why'd they make this into a gacha game? It does not feel like a gacha game in both a good and a bad way, and we can get into it really quick. Let's just start off with the gameplay and systems. So there is a slight elemental system to the game. It doesn't really matter that much right now. There's some resistances and like skills that certain elements and like kind of have at the current moment, but it's more about the character types. Like there's Guardian, Witness, and Hero at the current moment, at least all the characters I had unlocked. And the combat system, honestly, it's like a mix. It feels like an early Bayonetta or Devil May Cry when it comes to just pure gameplay. It feels like how you feel like at the beginning of those games. And that's where it starts feeling kind of weird, because it almost feels like it was designed a little bit more to be a regular game than a gacha game. And because of that, it just seems like it is a hack and slash, but also parry heavy gameplay style, where each character has their own unique moveset in a slightly decently, they have different mechanics, but overall they all kind of do around the same thing, at least at the current moment. And because of that, I don't see a lot of extra systems put on there. It almost feels like I don't see enough mechanical depth to be having hundreds and thousands of characters be put into this game. I don't really feel it yet. You know, like people always clown on, I'll just give examples of what I'm talking about. You know, like in Genshin Impact, they have the elemental system. And you're like, okay, the elemental system, there's about, I think there's 8 elements in Genshin, and then they go back and forth with different reactions. And then on top of that, over time, they can add new reactions, as they are doing now. Or there is ZZZ, where there's certain people of certain roles that do certain things, and they kind of intermingle with the mechanics of different characters, and you layer the mechanics on top of their role. But this game at the current moment feels like the characters you can match most characters together and have a good time, which almost makes it feel, the characters in the cast almost feel like a party. There's 8 characters, I think there's 8 or 9 characters you can try, and it almost feels like that's your party, and you can upgrade them further like a regular game. But no, it's a gacha, so pretty much what they do is what they're going to do for now. It doesn't, the mechanics don't feel multi-layered, if that makes sense. It feels like, it does feel a little clunky when it comes to combat. Like, it doesn't have a layered system that it follows on top of it. It doesn't feel like it flows together completely well. I think the parry is the most interesting thing about the combat system, because it's similar to ZZZ's parry, where you parry and it switches out your character as you parry. And Outside of that, it almost feels like you need a skill tree or something to upgrade some of these characters. In my IMO, in my opinion. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do have plans to have multi-layer mechanics as the roster size increases. I don't know. But I did enjoy the combat close to the end, as I think they patched an update to make the frame rate a little bit more stable. So I had a lot better time on the last 2 or 3 days of the beta than the beginning of the beta. Also, I like to kind of slide right into the gacha design criticism I was kind of talking about, on why I keep on saying it feels like it might have been a regular game. And I made the same criticism with HSR and Wuwa. I always made the criticism that HSR needed another action, like a second skill button, or like Wuwa needed to do more with the elements that they brought into the game. But they did kind of partially do something later, and then they did a lot more with the forte gauge at the bottom. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it needs more room for expression if we're going to make it into a gacha game. But if it's a regular game, you can just add a skill tree and add a whole bunch of new moves, and the game be good as gold. But that's not what we're doing here. So it just feels like it might start falling the same trap I have when it comes to HSR, where the mechanics the mechanics are gonna start turning around to be very similar to what they were before, if that makes sense. But honestly, outside of that, I really enjoyed the combat, especially in the later half. It took a second for it to ramp up for me, but I really think they have something special. I just hope that it stands past the test of time of a year or two. The second thing I want to talk about is the investigation mechanics. And I think I see a lot of potential with the investigation mechanics. I do feel like, I don't know if it's because of the gacha game or because they haven't really iterated on it. I do feel like the investigation mechanics are kind of simple. It kind of guides you through it. You know, you have the eyes that show up, and you just gather the evidence, and you can't really leave the most areas without gathering the evidence. Then you gather the evidence and you put it all in the same folder, and then you just keep on going on. I kind of think they need another thing or two to spice it up a little bit, because they're really just going through narrative buttons. But I think for what it is, it's good. It's really good, but I think they might improve on this. Something tells me they might improve on this part. I keep on thinking, like, how deep are they willing to go with this investigation mechanic? Because right now they have the layer on there, but I know they're going to give them some more time. They're going to add some extra layers. I'm really curious about that. So the story and narrative is something I kind of want to talk about next. And as you know, this story leads more into a mystery novel type storytelling. A lot of things aren't given to you right away. It almost seems like the very beginning of the game, characters are just doing things just to do things. And you do see little later on that they do kind of like start explaining what they're doing, especially as the mystery unfolds. But it definitely starts off like a mystery novel where everything doesn't make any sense. And then over time it starts to a little bit. Keep in mind, the story is not complete. They only kind of went through the first like chapter of the game. It kind of stops right when it honestly, in my opinion, starts getting interesting. I honestly, if you like a lot of visual novel games, like, I don't know, like Phoenix Wright, or like mystery novels, or I mean, who are we talking about? This is gacha game players. Do we read? This is message. Visual novel players, like people who like Phoenix Wright and stuff, you're gonna see some of this type of stuff that you like in here. The characters aren't as quirky, but you could definitely feel like that visual novel mystery feel to it. I do think the characters need a little bit of spice, both visually and script wise. When it comes to the story, I do feel like sometimes the characters are just doing what they expect, what their characters expect themselves to do. There's not a lot of like the detective, of course, you're probably not going to know a lot about them right away, but just even the side characters, like you kind of you get it at face value. That's their job, and they do their job, and they don't really talk too personal. Maybe they talk about getting a drink after work or something, but there isn't a lot of depth to these characters yet. Maybe they'll add a little bit more. I think the what was it, the chief, is it not chief detective, whatever, the chief detective, the one that's like a 30 grizzled or 30-year-old man, that one is he's the most interesting character of the cast, I think. And the doctor, which you meet at the very end of the story that they currently have out. But I do think they need to dig a little deeper, which I think, I don't want to give my theories about who I think the villain is for this first arc if they continue with it, but I think I know who it is because she looks similar to a different character. But honestly, I don't think the narrative thing is something that it's a problem I have with a few other mystery-based narratives. It does take a while for things to be revealed and just for characters to open up a little bit. And like I said, to have right now they didn't really have a lot of good personality moments because of it. Visually, the game's stunning. I had the problem where my computer was a tiny bit below spec where I wanted to be, as I have a 3070 Ti, and the VRAM and all that. The VRAM was a little low on a 3070 Ti, so I did have a few issues, hence why I did stream the game. I did try to do it once and it crashed like once or twice. So I am on the middle to slightly lower end of the specs they want for the game. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. I'm guessing they're going to optimize it a lot more. But it looks good. It looks good. I do, like I said, even people who had good PCs, I've heard the frame rate was a little shoddy, but they're going to fix most of that in the final release. I think the designs for the characters are really good. Even though there was one character, and me and my girlfriend were talking about it, we're like, is that an old school, I'll say an old school Germany uniform from World War II? And we just kept on looking at it because we know our history, and we're just like, is that like a black uniform with fancy buttons in the right spots with a red armband? I had to double check it. I had to level check when I saw it. I had to double check because it just looked a little crazy. Outside of that design, they all look really cool. Even that character looked cool, but it was hitting a little too close to something else, if you know what I'm saying. But other than that, it was a good time. It's a good time. Would I recommend Silver Palace the way it is? I never recommend a gacha game. Fun fact about me. It's why I don't do my pools I don't do videos about my pools. I keep that to myself. Unless you guys are going to pay me, I don't do my pools on stream or on video because I don't want to promote that part of the game completely. But I think it has a lot of potential. I don't hate it, but I think it does need to do some more work on the battle system and the presentation and story mode. I just think it needs work all around because right now it's a very much, if it continues the way it is right now, it'd be a 6.5 or 7 to me. But if they did a little bit of work on it, it probably could be an 8 or a 9. I mean 8.5 or 8. A 9 means they really hit it. I don't know. I think it has a lot of good. It's going into a good direction. And I think I might try it, at least try it out once it comes out officially, if I don't get into another beta. But until then, I want to thank you all for watching this first impressions video. Hopefully it wasn't all over the place. I have a notebook with little bullet points in it just to make sure I stay on track. But other than that, I like to appreciate you guys coming through. I know some guys probably have a stronger opinion than others, so let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next video in our stream. All right, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
What are you search for? Send this before like nothing but a joke. Your sicky imagination, pure illusion, escaping from the hole without a fear.